Shut up! The Footy's on Triple M!
Now on Triple M Footy.
Too strong, too good.
This is the Midweek Rub.
That is just brilliant.
How do you like those apples?
Triple M rocks footy.
Yes, we're back. The people have wanted it. The Midweek Rub, it's back. We didn't have it last year, did we? Of course, COVID, but this year it's on, and we've got the big guns here. Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub, and it's exclusively on the Listener app, which we all need to download now. But I'll tell you what, we've got the big guns here from Triple M. We've got Duck, Damo and Daisy, and looking forward to this one. You notice the order that I went in. It prioritised Duck first, Damo, and then you, Daisy.
Yeah, I did know that. I'm flat about it.
Good to have Daisy Pearce. Oh, no, it's Daisy Thomas.
Daisy
Yeah,
Thomas.
very good. Yeah,
Hello,
well done,
Duck. How are you, Damo? Good to see you. Daisy and Joey here as well. Just going to try and steer the ship, but looking forward to working with you all year.
Yeah, really looking forward to this, actually. A couple of whippersnappers, you two, and a couple of old-timers, Damo, you and I. So
A couple of good blokes too, Duck.
Should go very well.
Yeah, well, you're going to fire all your bullets on this show because no longer do we have talking footy. So
No.
you're going to use all your best here. We know Damo's the best in the business. Daisy, you're just going to talk a bit of shit and just bring some stories to the table.
You're not
and-
really sure what you're going to get with me, are you? But some of it be good and some of it, well, it's a
No,
podcast.
only joking. Your knowledge is
No,
very
you're
good,
not.
and you bring the humour. And you bring the humour.
And that's the beauty of you, Days. We don't know what we're going to get, do
Yeah,
we?
well, that's it. Every now and then
What's
it'll be
it
a
like-
bit of gold.
What's it like to be the second most famous Daisy?
It's actually starting to hurt my feelings getting asked that. The same jokes were run out at Channel 7 the other day. It was brilliant.
I saw that. Did anyone? You would have seen it, the Heater and Daisy show on Channel 7 the other day. Did you catch that one on 7 Plus?
I was there. I was at the meeting when we saw the snippets. Generally, when you get a really good comedy or a movie, or any
Yes.
movie for that matter, they show the good snippets of it.
Yeah.
And, well, oh boy. They've got some work to do if that was the best stuff early.
It's all right. You're just going to peak later on, aren't you? But I did notice Mason Cox seems like he will be the butt of a few jokes.
Yeah,
will he?
Mason Cox and Ned Guy. They're in the gun early, the two boys at the Pies. Them and Bucks, no doubt. He'll get a few mentions.
All right, well, let's get into it, Damo. Let's start with all the footy news because we're just over 24 hours away from the season. We can't wait. But what's the latest, particularly with this sub-rule that's been hotly spoken about?
It was a relatively quiet pre-season, wasn't it? Coming out of the COVID situation, a late start physically, Duck, to the training. And then last Thursday, coaches met with Gillan McLaughlin and Steve Hocking, and it erupted at a meeting over breakfast time about the potential for a 23rd player on a list. Now, that's played out since last Thursday, Duck. We've got to today being the Wednesday of this week, the start of the season tomorrow night on Thursday. The 23rd players come through. It is now a medical sub, not a concussion
Well,
sub.
all the coaches there, and who was the coach that ran it? Who was the most passionate about getting this changed?
This won't surprise you, but it was Alistair Clarkson.
Of course.
He didn't raise the topic.
Hang
He
on,
certainly-
the current premiership coach, Dimmer, he would have surely now that
strong
he's a
views
three-time premiership
Not
coach.
in attendance, Dimmer, actually, at the
Ooh.
meeting, I've been
So the
told.
premiership- the
Luke
back-to-back
Beveridge was not
premier,
there either.
not there.
Not there, Luke Beveridge either. The two WA guys, just because it was so early, chose not to for other reasons. But it was Alistair Clarkson, Duck, who drove it. It flies in the face of what the AFL wanted to do with bringing the fatigue back into the game because this rule, no matter how they spin it and no matter how many times they tell us it's going to be basically ordered by the club doctor to make the call, it will be rorted, Duck.
Is it a concussion sub or is it an injury sub?
It's a medical sub, so
Medical,
it
so you
doesn't
can have
need to be
any
a-
injury,
You,
calf
you can
injury,
replace someone
anything.
in the first minute should you do so on a medical ground. But if you then get concussion, you are going to be one short.
So there could be someone out there talking about bending the rules, someone out there halfway through the second quarter, not getting anywhere near it, Joey. The coach just thinks, well, he's not going to be playing for a couple of weeks anyway. That's how bad he's going. Let's get him off and get someone else on. That's how it could be manipulated.
Yeah, look, while we'll always respect the club doctors, there is no doubt in my mind this will be rorted.
Yeah, that's why I think it has to fall on the club doctors because we know they are of the highest integrity and they have they've got more morals than footy players and footy coaches. Let's be honest. So I think if the AFL put it on them,
Well,
if
it
they
is, Joey.
sign
It is,
something
Joey.
that they say they get found out faking it, they're in a bit of strife.
But
the
a player
doctors.
could bring into a game, Daisy, an injury that the club doctor knows about, and it may be very convenient at a certain point of a game, 4 goals down, for instance, in the third quarter, for that injury to maybe a little bit worse than it may have been had this new rule not been introduced.
Or one of your best players is only going to get through a half regardless, then he's at risk. So therefore, going in, yes, he's injured as such, so that's not a thing. And then you just know that you're going to put a fresh bloke on at the halfway mark. And if you do get subbed out with injury, if as a young player especially, you miss the next week, you still get a match payment. So they won't be too flat on that, the players.
It is midday Wednesday as we record this day. Do you know, will there be a, like if you get subbed off, you will be missing the following week?
No.
Is that there won't be so you could potentially play the following week?
Yeah, there's two issues to look at here. There is a concussion rule which is new this year, 12 days beyond the point of that concussion as a minimum, which I like. I reckon it's a good idea. But if you're injured within a game and the doctor says you cannot play at this game, there is every chance you can play the next week.
Then it will get exploited, Duck.
And that's what I'm saying.
I mean, that's
grey area.
interesting. Yeah.
That is, and the other big thing, and I know you've already mentioned it, but the fact that they've done this so close to the start of the season.
Yeah. It flies in the face of everything that was done last year with the planning around reducing rotations from 90 to 75 to increase the game back up to the 20 minutes plus time on to ensure that there is a fatigue element late in games. It's not ideal practice.
And it also, when we have something in the start of the year, wouldn't you love, let's say 2 rounds in and this man on the mark rule or whatever other rule that, we realise isn't working, that the AFL says, oh, no, we can't change it. We can't change it now. Well, yeah, you can because you made a rule up a week before the 3 days before the season started.
Yeah. Interesting. What about some other news? So speaking of concussion and injury, Max King.
Yeah.
Have we been able to find out who hit the golf ball and what the real story is there? Because it just seems so bizarre.
It was a mate. So that can take in a lot of people. It was a mate. I don't believe it was a St Kilda football club mate, but it was a mate. And like as far as bizarre injuries go, it was
it is
up there.
It's look, you've got to take the young man on his word.
Yeah.
And he is only a young man, but it's very unusual. I'm not a massive golfer, but not too many people get hit by a golf ball, do they, Joey?
Can you remember any unusual stories at your clubs? Because the two that stick out with mine is we had Stevie Baker broke his foot.
Be careful where you go. Take this one too, Joey, I reckon.
No, Stevie Baker broke his foot and then it was he kicked the lawn, playing barefoot bowls one day. He kicked the lawn bowl out of disgust and broke his foot. And the other one that we had, Cozzy one day rocked up to a game and he had to get stitches above his eye. And I actually was with him, so I know it was fact. We were trying to move a TV that we were lifting and he fell off a pot plant, cut his eye. But none of the footy boys believed him that it was a TV that hit him in the head. They felt it was something a bit more sinister. They still play that one up today, but we've had a couple of bizarre ones.
I know we're on radio, Joey, so people can't see this, but if you look there, so I stabbed myself.
That's your backside.
I stabbed myself in the glute with a pigging knife on a Sunday night. I was twirling it around. I had the pouch there, and I was like, I thought, that's hurt. So I rang Harry Ungley.
Just having a cup of tea at the time,
and said, I think I need stitches. Went there, 23 stitches. So inside and then the top. But
would you play the next week?
I did, of course. I played the next week. I guess that's the only difference with
It's got a few holes with that story, Duck. But Buddha Hocking, I think it was, Joey, was on a garbage run as a player. I think it was Buddha Hocking, certainly one of those big names Geelong players at the time. And he rolled an ankle in a finals series one particular year. I think it was Buddha. If it wasn't Buddha, it was a good Geelong player anyway.
Was it Geordie DeGoey who said he was throwing the frisbee with his
Jeremy
dog?
Howe, was it?
Jeremy Howe.
Yeah.
That's always a good one.
Last one too before we go to our first break, Damo. Adam Treloar, been in the news all week. Been a lot spoken about considering this happened a couple of months ago.
Are you surprised he's brought it up again? 2 days or Tuesday night of a Friday night game for his club this particular week, given we've known the story all week. I love the openness. Don't get me wrong. I'll never, ever criticise anyone who's open about stuff. But 3 days before the game for the 15th time?
But the
it
reason
sounds like you are criticising him for being open.
I love it because it's like 2 big boxes before their big bout. They go in and it's just added another dimension to this massive game. And the fact that it has gone on, I mean, it just keeps reminding us what's occurred. So much on this game. I can't wait for it for that very reason.
And I was in a similar spot and I chose to go the other way. I ducked and weaved the cameras all week. I didn't speak about it and then I came out and got no kick. So maybe he's learnt the lessons from that and front-footed it. So good luck to Adsy. I hope he comes out and has 40 and they win by 500.
It's one of the most emotional times, Joey. You didn't do it. One of the most emotional times. I won't go into why I ended up playing against my old club, but you really do. It's and that Daisy, you will attest to this. It's like no other game. It's not like a grand final. It's not like a prelim. Really, really weird feeling. So it will be very interesting to see how he goes because clearly there's still a lot of emotion going on. So for his sake, I hope he plays really well.
It was on for you, wasn't it? That got physical that game.
But it's just a really unusual feel. I mean, all the supporters that loved you at one point. And I actually kicked the first goal of the game, and it went from guess what, Joey? They soon forgot winning a couple of premierships for him.
That's right. Well, speaking of round one, we've all got stories. Round one, everyone tries to rush back from injuries. Everyone's done a full pre-season. They're keen to play. We're going to get some round one stories after this, of course. This is Triple M's Footy Midweek Rub. Duck, Damo, Daisy and Joey. And you can listen exclusively on the Listener app.
This is the Midweek Rub.
Most teams that I've been in have all been pretty good.
Triple M rocks footy.
This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub, exclusively on the Listener app with Damo, Duck, Daisy and Joey. And we were speaking before about round one and how important it is to get up and play. Adam Treloar, been a lot of talk. And even with his injury, is he going to be right? We know he's going to play because he's desperate to get out there for round one. I had a situation round one, Damo. Got injured in the last pre-season game. I hurt the knee, had to have an arthroscope. So normally that's a, 4-6 week injury, Duck?
2.
So I was able, and I thought at the time, I didn't think I was a bit of a legend. I managed to get back and be available for round one. So I just missed 1 week, obviously the week before round one.
You always had a good pain threshold.
Yeah, I
though,
did.
Joey.
I got back and played. It was a big game. It was the first of Maddie's match, so I was really keen to play with Rui and get out there, and thought I did a reasonable job and thought I did well. But then I came up with bone bruising and I missed the next 4 weeks. So it was a good lesson about the whole angst to rush and play round one. You've just got to pace yourself for the season, and I was probably underdone for the first half of the year. Anything like that happen to you, Daisy?
Well, my second year at the Blues, obviously I had a tough first year, came in, didn't have an ankle pretty much attached to my foot, so it made it hard to play. I got that right in the off-season. I was absolutely humming. I was trim, I was fit, I was fast, I was flying. First 47 seconds into the match against the Tigs, round one, 90,000 people. Camden McIntosh from the Tigs tackled me and bang, out goes the shoulder.
Yes.
Genuinely fell out of the socket. I got a free kick. I had to get up and take my kick. I'm on the far forward flank from the bench. So I got up, took my kick, got a score involvement, and then had to run the width of the MCG with my shoulder hanging out. So,
And then weren't seen again for 12?
no, I came back here. I missed 4 weeks because I refused to have the surgery because I was too stubborn, and I was like, nah, it'll be right. It wasn't right. It kept falling out, and then it wasn't sighted again until about 2017.
You didn't quite have the shoulder. You didn't quite have the shoulder muscles, did you? Just to keep it in place there. Well, you're not the biggest, biggest shoulders going around. Not that I can talk to you.
I
certainly
come back? Rabsy, do I have to come back next week? Skinny shoulders and the second best Daisy. This show sucks.
A little bit similar to you, Daisy. I did after winning the premiership in '96, round one, I actually popped my shoulder out in round one against Melbourne at the MCG and missed 10 games. Managed to get back within 10, but not fully.
You had surgery?
Had the surgery. So I had the surgery straight away.
And then, Doug, in that same year, you in the final, the very first final on a
well,
wet night, you managed to kick 7.
We still managed to get to a prelim. But anyway, this show won't be about us as much next week. Just given that it's our first week, we just had to bring up a couple of stories. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Hey, I wanted to bring something to the table, and I want to get all your opinions because I did some numbers last week, and we always think we know the top 4, and we've all got the same 4 or 5 teams we think will finish top 4. But history shows in the last 10 years, Damo, there have been 10 teams that have gone from outside the top 8 to finish in the top 4. And we know you've got to be in the top 4 to give yourself a chance at winning the flag. If you extrapolate that over the last 20 years, there's been 23 teams that have come from outside the top 8 to go into the top 4. So history says there will be one team this year, even though we don't think it at the moment, that'll go from outside the top 8, Daisy, into the top 4. I want all your takes. If there is one team, who do you think it'll be and why?
I reckon Freo can be the big improver. I think they'll have enough games over there. They've got a really young, good team.
I'm glad this is on tape.
Well, you heard the other day, Doug, that the Triple M thing they asked about COVID and how long it'd last. I was going to be blown over in a week. So take this with a grain of salt. But honestly, I think Fremantle, they'll be a big improver, whether it be this year and you ask for the one that might jump out. But I think, you build any team around Nat 5, some of their young developing forwards. Tabernar, he's underrated a lot by people over this side of the country. So if I had to pick one, that's them.
Yeah, look, I don't think it'll happen, Joey. So just let me be on the record saying I don't think it'll happen.
Okay.
Well, I didn't know that was an option.
So
I got to ask for an opinion.
history won't repeat. But the fact that you've asked me for someone, I think
if there is going to be a team.
If there is going to be a team, most likely I would say I'm prepared to say the Blues.
Right.
The Blues could start the season zipping 6.
Yeah, okay. Well,
you've gone with that, haven't you, Daisy?
They've got the Tigs, the Pies, the Dockers, who are going to be superstars, the Suns, who are up and coming, Port Adelaide and Brisbane.
See, Duck, that's the sort of research that we like.
No. But I've been on their bandwagon for about 3 or 4 years, and if they don't do anything this year, the Blues, and tell you what, they've got some real issues because they've had all the draft picks you can possibly get. So I'm prepared to say the Blues.
I like the Swans, Joey. Not necessarily for a top 4 finish, but I feel they're better than
Well,
that
was a question.
Yeah, it was a question.
It was, but
Not
I'm asked
which team's going to
asked
improve.
for a team to throw in as a possibility. I'm throwing up the Swans, and I'm basing that on Buddy playing a lot more footy than we thought he was going to play. He's fit again.
I do like their young talent, the Swans.
Yeah, they do.
They can
Yeah.
certainly bounce back. I'm not sure it'll be this year, but I like where your mind's at.
And I'll go on record and say I think if it is a team, it could be Melbourne. I know there are a lot of people off Melbourne. I rate them. I think there's a bit about Melbourne.
That was my other one, but you asked me to pick one.
I think Melbourne. Hey, speaking of, you said Carlton. Damo, David Teague, there's been a bit of talk that he's already under pressure. Do you see that to be the case?
Not the way some do. I say that because he's had a full season, which was a COVID season, and therefore I think there's an asterisk on that as well. He had half the previous season. And he's batting at 50% or thereabouts. So to me, there's still a honeymoon, in inverted commas, attached to his tenure. And as such, I don't see the 2021 season being crucial to his time in the game.
By the way, talk about research. If you look at what Carlton did last year, so yes, we know they didn't play finals footy, and they won a lot of games by small
Close margins,
But I tell you what, they lost a fair
lost
few
more.
by small too. So if they'd gone the other way, they would have played finals last year.
What about you, Dose?
Yeah, well, I think at the minute there's no way he should be getting scrutinised for being under pressure. Yes, if he gets to that point where I've just said he's zipping 6, well, yes, then they're going to come. But at the minute, I think of a Goodwin, Buckley, those two are under a lot more pressure than David Teague, who's, as you said, a year and 12 games in, and one of those years was under COVID restrictions.
Yeah, very good. Hey, and that leads in beautifully because we've got another little segment on this show on Triple M's Midweek Rub, where, as we said, Duck, you're going to fire some of your best bullets. I like it. I'm going to fire 5 quick questions at you. We just want you to answer them as honestly as you can, and then we'll just bounce off the back of them because...
Don't dribble on.
Don't dribble on. And we know you're very good at going straight to the point. No, I mean very good at going straight to the point, not dribbling on. Sorry.
Just don't ask him any questions about himself.
First question I had. Round 14. Which AFL coach will be under the most pressure?
At round 14.
About round 14, when the pressure really starts to mount, which AFL coach will it be copping the most heat?
Well, it'll be a coach that's used to the pressure, and I think it'll be Bucks.
Right.
But he's used to it. So he's been there and done it, but I think it'll be Bucks.
If they don't play finals, does he get sacked?
I think if they don't play finals, he may walk. Not get sacked. I think the way he spoke, Damo, during the week, where he sort of said, if I'm not coached, then there might be another role. It was very, very open,
wasn't it?
honest, sort of weird answer.
Very cleverly took the heat out of that.
Didn't he?
That conversation.
Didn't he? Yeah. But I think he knows that if they don't play finals, he's under.
It's a good lesson, though, Damo. Sometimes if you just give a really reasonable answer, you almost think, fair point.
There's nowhere to go with it, was it?
No,
When he
that's right.
said,
It was
it may be my call.
Yeah.
If I'm of the view that I can't take the club any further, well, I'll walk myself.
Speaking of the Pies, question 2. Is Mason Cox deserving to be in Collingwood's best 22?
Not every week. It'll be based on who they play and what sort of form he's in, but he won't play every round.
No. Daisy, are you concerned about their forward line?
Yeah, I am, because Mason Cox, to be a part of that forward line, has to play one of his best games every week. We saw it in that Amy Challenge that he needs to take 3 or 4 big catches and kick a goal to have any influence on the game, because once it hits the ground, he's a liability.
Joe, he's single-handedly won 2 finals, this man. 2018.
Yeah.
And that's why he's still playing.
And 2020, when he played against West Coast and kicked 3 goals in 3
sitting
minutes.
next to 2 blokes who've single-handedly won about 50, so just keep that under wraps.
Thank you, Daisy. I didn't think I influenced that many games, but I appreciate it. Hey, question 3, Duck. The new rule's been a lot of hype about the man on the mark. Will scoring actually increase?
I think not necessarily for that reason. I think more for the interchange and other reasons, but that'll certainly make a difference. Yes, it will. And obviously the quarters are longer, Joey, so scoring will go up.
That's a fair point. Pretty simple. Question 4. Who by the end of this year will be rated as the best key forward in the competition?
Not that he's not already. I'm going to say Tom Lynch. I still think there's a couple of young guys, King and a couple of either Nick Blakey, depending on where he plays at Sydney, but I think Tom Lynch had not a great year last year. He'll be the number 1 by the end of this year.
And last one, is Dustin Martin now the greatest big game player in the history of VFL?
He's in the argument. I don't think you can compare eras. We've had this conversation off air before, but certainly in the modern era, yes.
Right. I was trying to get you to bite there. But very good. No, he did well. Damo, how'd he go? Did well.
Yeah, he did, actually, and he kept it nice and concise,
That's what we want.
which is unusual for Duck.
That's what we want. That's what we want. So we're going to take a break because after this, we've got big weekend of footy, round 1 coming up. We want to get all your tips and all your analysis coming up. So this has been Triple M's Midweek Rub, exclusively on the Listener app. It's Duck, Damo, Daisy and Joey.
This is the Midweek Rub.
Most teams that I've been in have all been pretty good.
Triple M rocks footy.
We can't wait. There's going to be crowds at the footy. We're looking forward to it. We're just going to get a few tips. We won't go through all the games, but we'll just touch on the big ones. And let's start with tomorrow night, Daisy. Your old mob, the Blues. Can they finally beat Richmond in a season opener?
I don't think so, no. I think their form in the pre-season, they're getting scored too heavily against. That's one thing with that new man-the-mark rule. A lot of their defenders, they've brought in Saad, they've got Doherty. They get so offensive that once they turn the ball over, because they're not great kicks down there, it goes whooshka the other way, and you can't give a Tiggs any sort of, give them an inch, and they'll be too good. I think this could get a bit messy early.
Duck, you've got potential Carlton as a top 4 team. Does that mean they can win a game like this, or they are a big chance?
I don't think so. Not against the Tigers. And to back up what Daisy said, I agree with all of that. So for me, no.
Damo, we want your tips as well. Give it Richmond.
I see Richmond winning that one.
Yeah. What about the big one tomorrow night, Duck? Friday night, sorry. Collingwood and the Western Bulldogs. There's a lot of hype about the Dogs. Of course, Adam Treloar, we touched on at the start. Collingwood's forward line issues. Who do you see winning that one?
He'll get his revenge. Treloar, that is. Really? Yeah, I think they'll beat the Pies. They're a good team, the Bulldogs. And what still concerns me, and we don't know how they're going to play this year, the Pies, their ball movement. That's what concerns me. We talk about their forward line. It's because of their ball movement that they can't score. So if they play like they did at times last year and even the year before, I think the Bulldogs.
Daisy?
Yeah, Bulldogs for me too. I don't think it'll be as one-sided as it would be if it was at Marvel Stadium. The Pies do play the G well, but I think the Bulldogs get it done.
Same again, Joey.
Yeah, I think the Bulldogs will win. And just keep an eye on Tim English as a forward. I think now with Dustin Martin in the side, Tim English, he can play. Good jukes. He can mark it. He's a beautiful kick and he moves pretty well.
Young man too.
Yeah, he's a lot. Yeah,
so well mannered.
Yeah, I think I've heard you say that once or twice before.
He's got the same hair as me nana. He could be 5 or 75.
But that might just be the missing link for the Western Bulldogs if he can clunk a few as a forward. Hey, the other game I'm intrigued about, and Daisy, you touched on it, the Bombers starting as as outsiders in this one against the Hawks. But how do you think, which team do you think will finish higher in the ladder, first of all, and who will win this game in particular?
I think the Bombers will win this game, and I think the Bombers will finish higher. The Hawks finished 15th, I think it was last season, and I just don't know where their improvement has come from over the off-season. They haven't gone out and recruited massively. So I think, with the Bombers' new coach, a bit of hype, they're not too far from shying away about saying the finals word, which they say every year. They're bullish of their own opportunities and expectations, so I think they'll go pretty well.
Doug, you love it when I get into this tipping space, and you love it because I'm usually wrong and you can replay it the next week. I'll give you something to replay next week if I'm wrong. All right. Essendon are certainties in this game.
Certainties.
Good, Damo.
Yes.
Love it.
I love it. Well, I'm not going to go against you. I think the Bombers will win as well. Not as confident though. The one thing that the Hawks, when you expect them to lose, they generally get up and have a win. Yeah. So, but I'm going to go the Bombers.
And just when you think they've got no young talent, all of a sudden Kaczynski kicks 6 in a cracky match, and they find Tyler Brockman and Giath looks like he might bounce. So you never know with the Hawks, and you can never write off Clarko. I like it. Last one we'll touch on because it's interesting for different reasons, particularly with some injuries and players lost. But the GWS Giants and St Kilda, I think all pre-season there was a lot of hype. The Saints would be favourites. They would go into this one chock full of confidence. The Giants are on the decline. After what we've seen in the pre-season with some injuries, Daisy, who do you think wins that one?
I still think the Saints will win that one. I'm not sure where the Giants are at, just a big question mark over them as a football club. So I'm not sure where they're at. I'll find out, obviously, a lot more this weekend, but I think the Saints are a team that they know what they're doing. They've got a good system. It's not so much who's missing, but it's one man out, one man in sort of setup, and I think they'll be too good.
Yeah, I'm prepared to go the Saints. Recruited well again. No, they've got a couple out, but I think they'll be good enough against a GWS. And I agree, they're still the great unknown.
Yeah, they are.
They are, and we'll know 4 or 5, 6 weeks into the comp.
They've got more than a couple out, Duck. They've got a lot of good players out. And for that reason, I'm going for the Giants, which surprises me. But I think Marshall, Ryder, Frawley also being absent, Payton King missing as well. Hanbury, who was good in that final they won last year, Crouch being unavailable, Geary's out. I reckon there's too many injuries and, GWS.
Yeah, all of a sudden the Giants come right into this one and they start the year pretty well. I think they might jump out of the blocks, the Giants. Whether they can sustain it, we'll see. Hey, just quickly, closest to the pin, we won't get your tips, but Kangaroos, Port Adelaide, Duck at Marvel. How much will Port win by?
It'll be over 100, 110.
Over 100.
Did you see their pre-season?
Yeah, I did.
Form?
Yeah, I did.
It was 90. It was, and then at one stage in the other game against the Saints, I think it might have been. It was something else.
77 points or something. The Kangas kicking out of the back half. They have to be careful not to just kick the ball straight back to the upright.
Kangaroo supporters.
Yeah.
But,
will they win a game, Duck? At all? This year?
I happened to be up in Brisbane last week doing a couple of functions, and I think it'll be highly doubtful.
Ooh. Damo, how much will Kangaroos get within?
Well, the mercy rule will have to be applied at some stage by Ken Hinkley, and as such, it'll be 83 points.
Yeah, if it's anything under 90, I'd be surprised.
Wow. Okay. I think they'll get within 10 goals. I think. I don't know why. Hey, lastly, Damo, some news. A big story to come out of the first round or anything like that, but we want to ask about the crowd numbers. There's been a lot of talk. What's your understanding?
Yeah, there'll be a massive push again to get this round out of the way, and certainly from a Victorian perspective, to have crowds increase from the 50% allowance. Now, that's an okay number when it comes to the bigger ground at the MCG. It causes problems, as we're going to see in round one, when it's 50% of the smaller ground at Marvel. So there'll be considerable weight given to all stages and tiers of government for that to be increased. And I reckon if they get through reasonably plain sailing on round one occasions, we'll see an increase from 50% up to 60, maybe 70 the next week.
That'll be good.
Very good. Hey, nice start, boys. Been a good start. We're going to be here all season. Every Wednesday we'll be on. So looking forward to it. Of course, don't forget that you can listen to every game across round one on Triple M, starting with tomorrow night's opening night blockbuster between the Tigers and the Blues from 7 p.m. Luke Darcy and Nath Brown will be calling it. Daisy, you and I will be doing specials together. Looking forward to that one. Ash Chua and Sarah Ollie on the boundary. It's going to be a big weekend of footy. We can't wait. But this has been Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Look forward to seeing you again. I'll hear from you next week.
Shut up. The footy's on Triple M.
Triple M rocks footy.